My parents boycotted my wedding to teach me humility. The phone call that broke everything. I didn't cry when my father told me he wouldn't come to my wedding. I didn't scream either. I just stood there in my small kitchen, staring at the cracked tile floor while the words slowly settled into my chest like cold metal. You need to learn humility, Maya. My father, Victor Hartwell, had always spoken like that, like he was delivering a verdict in court instead of talking to his daughter. Behind me, Adrian sat at the tiny wooden table that barely fit in my apartment. He had been looking through venue photos on his laptop just seconds earlier. Now the screen had gone dark. He wasn't looking at the laptop anymore. He was looking at me, waiting, listening. I held the phone a little tighter. What exactly does my wedding have to do with humility? I asked quietly. My mother's voice joined the call immediately, sharp and impatient. Your sister's ballet retreat is that week. Of course. Isabella. My younger sister. The sun around which the entire Hartwell universe revolved. I closed my eyes. Mom, I said slowly, we booked the venue 8 months ago. You can change it. It's paid for. So change it anyway. I almost laughed. It was the kind of laugh people make when something becomes so absurd it stops feeling real. You want me to move my wedding because Isabella has a dance retreat. It's not just a retreat, my mother snapped. It's prestigious. Adrian quietly stood up from the table. He didn't interrupt. He never did. But I could feel his presence behind me now, steady and calm. And my wedding isn't important? I asked. My father exhaled sharply through the phone. Maya, don't make this about you. The irony almost knocked the air out of my lungs. Don't make my own wedding about me. That retreat could define Isabella's career, my mother continued. Do you understand how important that is? Yes, I said. And my wedding defines my life. Silence. Long, heavy. Then my father said the sentence that would change everything. If you refuse to move the date, we won't attend. The words hung in the air. Adrian's hand slowly rested on my shoulder. Warm. Solid. Real. I swallowed. You're serious. Very. My mother added, almost casually. We're not negotiating with selfishness. Selfishness. That word had followed me my entire life. When I chose art instead of business school. When I moved into a small apartment downtown instead of staying in the family house. When I fell in love with a man who didn't come from money. Selfish. Rebellious. Difficult. Meanwhile, Isabella had always been perfect. Perfect posture. Perfect smile. Perfect pirouettes. Perfect daughter. Maya, my father said again, his voice colder now. This is a simple test of character. A test. Yes, to see if you're willing to put family first. I looked at Adrian. His eyes were calm, but something dark flickered beneath the surface. He already understood what was happening. He had understood it long before I did. You want me to postpone my wedding for a ballet retreat. It's bigger than that. No, I said quietly. It's exactly that. My mother sighed dramatically. Victor, she's being stubborn again. Again. Like this was some lifelong pattern of disobedience. I took a slow breath. For the first time in the conversation, my voice didn't shake. I'm not changing the date. Silence exploded through the phone. Then my father spoke with the calm finality of a judge delivering a sentence. Then your mother and I will not attend your wedding. My chest tightened. But still, no tears came. Understood, I said. And Maya? Yes. I hope someday you realize how much humility you lack. The call ended. Just like that. No goodbye. No hesitation. Just the quiet click of a father removing himself from his daughter's wedding. And possibly from her life. For a long moment, the apartment was silent. Then Adrian gently took the phone from my hand and placed it on the counter. "You okay?" he asked softly. I shrugged. "I think so." But even as I said the words, something deep inside me felt hollow. Adrian studied my face. "You don't have to pretend with me." "I'm not pretending." "Yes, you are." I leaned against the kitchen counter. "My parents just boycotted my wedding," I said. "Apparently, it's a character lesson." Adrian crossed his arms. "They're punishing you." "I know. For not prioritizing Isabella. Also not new." He didn't laugh. He just looked at me in that thoughtful way he had. "What are you thinking?" I asked. "That they've underestimated you." I raised an eyebrow. "How so?" "They think this will break you." I stared at the window. Outside, the evening city lights flickered to life one by one. Cars moved slowly through the streets. Life continued. Unbothered. "I'm not broken," I said. Adrian smiled faintly. "I know." He stepped closer and gently lifted my chin. "But they're about to learn something." "What?" "That teaching you humility." He paused. "Might be the worst mistake they've ever made." 3 days later, my best friend Leila Monroe burst into my apartment like a hurricane. "Your parents are insane." She threw her bag onto the couch dramatically. I mean absolutely clinically insane. I laughed despite myself. "You just found out?" "I just heard the full story from Clara." Clara Cole. Adrian's older sister. She had unofficially adopted me the moment Adrian and I started dating. Leila paced the living room angrily. "They're skipping their own daughter's wedding because of a dance camp." "Retreat," I corrected automatically. "Whatever." She spun toward me. "This is emotional blackmail." I sat cross-legged on the couch. "Probably." Leila stopped pacing. "So what are you going to do?" "About what?" "Your parents." I shrugged again. "They made their decision." And I made mine." Leila narrowed her eyes. "You're too calm." "I'm not calm." "Yes, you are." I hesitated. Then I said something that surprised even me. "I think I'm just done with begging them to see me." Leila slowly sat down beside me. "That's big." I nodded. "It feels big." She studied my face carefully. Then she smiled. Well, what?" "If they think boycotting your wedding will humiliate you." Her grin widened. "They clearly don't know the woman I know." I raised an eyebrow. "And what woman is that?" Leila leaned back on the couch dramatically. "The one who once got banned from 3 art galleries in one night." "That was a misunderstanding." "You painted graffiti on their statues." "Artistic protest." "Illegal artistic protest." I smirked. "Your point?" "My point," Leila said, leaning forward, "is that if your parents think this wedding will break you." She tapped the coffee table for emphasis. "They are about to witness the most legendary wedding this city has ever seen." I laughed. But somewhere deep in my chest, a small rebellious spark began to burn. What I didn't know yet was that my parents' boycott was only the beginning. Because 2 weeks later, my father would send a letter. And that letter would trigger a chain of events that would turn my wedding into something no one in the Hartwell family would ever forget. Not my parents. Not my sister. And definitely not the 200 guests who would witness what Adrian did at the reception. Because when my husband stood up to speak that night, the entire room went silent. And for the first time in my life, someone finally said out loud the truth my family had spent decades hiding. My parents boycotted my wedding to teach me humility. The letter my father sent. The letter arrived on a Tuesday morning. Not an email. Not a text. An actual envelope. Thick, cream-colored paper with a Hartwell family crest stamped in gold. Even before opening it, I knew it was from my father. Victor Hartwell had always believed that serious messages deserved formal delivery. Bad news apparently included. I was halfway through my morning coffee when the knock came on my apartment door. Adrian was still in the shower. When I opened the door, a courier handed me the envelope and asked for my signature. The moment I saw the crest, something inside my stomach twisted. I closed the door slowly. For a few seconds, I just stood there, staring at the envelope like it might explode. Adrian walked into the kitchen a minute later, towel around his neck, hair still wet. "What's that?" I held it up. My father. Adrian's eyebrows lifted. "A peace offering?" I laughed. A short, humorless laugh. My father doesn't do peace offerings. He leaned against the counter. "Then open it." I sat down at the table. My fingers hesitated for a moment before breaking the seal. Inside was a single sheet of paper. Typed. Of course it was typed. Victor Hartwell didn't believe in messy emotions or messy handwriting. I unfolded the letter and started reading. The first line made my chest tighten. "Maya, since you have chosen to disregard your family's wishes regarding your wedding date, your mother and I feel it is necessary to clarify our position." Adrian watched my face carefully. "Bad?" he asked. "Worse than expected." I kept reading. "You have always struggled with pride and independence to a degree that borders on disrespect. We have tolerated this behavior for many years, hoping that maturity would eventually bring humility." I felt heat rising in my chest. "Tolerated?" I muttered. Adrian didn't interrupt. He just listened. "Your refusal to make a simple adjustment for your sister demonstrates once again that you place your own desires above the needs of the family." I could almost hear the simple feeling that I mattered just as much as Isabella. And standing there in my kitchen, staring at my father's neatly typed ultimatum, I finally realized something that should have been obvious years ago. I was never going to win that game, because the rules had always been written without me in mind. Adrian must have seen the realization pass across my face because he spoke quietly. "You look different." "How so?" "Calmer." I leaned against the counter. "I think I just stopped caring." He smiled slightly. "That's dangerous." "Why?" "Because the calmest version of you," Adrian said, "is usually the one about to do something rebellious." I couldn't help smiling. "Maybe." Just then my phone buzzed again. "Leela." "Of course," I answered. So she said immediately, "How angry are we on a scale of 1 to revolution?" I laughed. "Probably revolution." "Excellent." I could hear papers shuffling on her end. "What are you doing?" I asked. "Research." "For what?" "For the most legendary wedding this city has ever seen." I glanced at Adrian. He was already grinning. "Leela," I said cautiously, "what exactly are you planning?" "Oh, nothing crazy," she said. A pause. "Just a complete reinvention of your wedding." Adrian leaned closer. I'm suddenly interested. Leela continued talking like a storm building momentum. "Okay, listen. If your parents think boycotting your wedding will embarrass you." She paused for dramatic effect. "Then we do the opposite." "What does that mean?" I asked. It means we make the wedding bigger. Adrian laughed. Define bigger. Public. My eyebrows lifted. Public. Very public. I sat down slowly. Leela. But she was already on a roll. Think about it. Your parents expect a quiet, elegant ceremony where their absence creates a huge, awkward hole in the room. That's exactly what they want, Adrian said thoughtfully. Right, Leela replied, so we don't give them that. Silence settled over the kitchen as the idea slowly formed. What are you suggesting? I asked carefully. A wedding that doesn't need them. Adrian crossed his arms. I like the sound of that. Good, Leela said, because I already started making calls. You wait. I called Marcus Bennett. Adrian burst out laughing. Oh, this just got interesting. Marcus Bennett was our wedding planner, and he was not subtle. Imagine a man who believed every event should feel like the finale of a Hollywood movie. That was Marcus. Leela, I said slowly, what did you tell him? That your family drama just upgraded the wedding. To what? She took a breath. To an event. Hadrian looked at me. Maya, yes. I think your friend just declared war. Before I could respond, another voice suddenly came through the phone. Technically, it's not war, Marcus Bennett announced dramatically. It's reputation management. Marcus, I said, in the flesh. Why are you on Leela's phone? Conference call. Of course it was. Marcus continued enthusiastically. Maya, darling, I heard about the boycott. Everyone heard about the boycott, I muttered. Yes, well, Marcus said, their loss. Adrian leaned against the counter again. What are you planning, Marcus? Oh, nothing extreme. I had known Marcus long enough to recognize that tone. That meant something extreme was absolutely coming. He cleared his throat. I'm thinking outdoor ceremony. We already had an outdoor venue, I said. Yes, but now we're enhancing it. How? Lights. Lights. Hundreds. Adrian laughed. Oh my God. Marcus continued. Live music. We had live music. Better live music. Marcus. And a reception stage. A stage? Yes. For speeches. I froze. Speeches. Marcus sounded delighted. Absolutely. Adrian suddenly looked thoughtful. Very thoughtful. Dangerously thoughtful. Maya, he said quietly. Yes. I think Marcus might be onto something. Leela practically shouted through the phone. Right. I rubbed my forehead. Someone please explain the plan. Marcus took a breath like a director preparing for the big reveal. Your parents expect their absence to dominate the wedding. That's correct. So we make sure it doesn't. How? With a celebration so powerful that no one notices who isn't there. Adrian nodded slowly. And the speeches. Marcus chuckled. Well, Leela jumped in. Let's just say your husband might have something interesting to say. I looked at Adrian. What are they talking about? He shrugged. I haven't decided yet. Decided what? He smiled calmly. How honest I'm going to be. Something about the way he said it sent a small chill down my spine. Adrian was usually the calm one, the diplomatic one. But when he believed someone had crossed a line, he didn't forget it. And my parents had crossed several lines. Marcus clapped his hands through the phone. Excellent. Energy. Drama. This is what weddings are supposed to have. Marcus, I sighed. Yes. Please tell me you're not turning my wedding into a spectacle. He gasped. Darling. A pause. That ship sailed the moment your father tried to control it. Leela laughed. Welcome to the rebellion, Maya. Adrian leaned down and kissed my forehead. You okay with this? I thought about my father's letter. The ultimatum. The silence. The years of being second place in my own family. Then I slowly smiled. Yeah, I said. I think I am. But none of us knew yet just how big this wedding was about to become. Because a week later, something happened that none of us expected. Something that would change everything. My grandmother called. And when she spoke, the first words out of her mouth were, I heard your parents are being idiots again. And that conversation would lead to the biggest twist of the entire wedding. My parents boycotted my wedding to teach me humility. The call from my grandmother never called in the middle of the day. Ever. So when my phone lit up with Grandma Eleanor, I knew something unusual was about to happen. I stepped out onto the balcony of my apartment and answered. Hello. Her voice came through immediately. Sharp, alert, and unmistakably annoyed. Maya. Yes, Grandma. I just heard the most ridiculous story. I sighed. About my wedding? About your parents acting like idiots again. I couldn't help laughing. My grandmother had never been good at sugarcoating things. In fact, she had spent most of my childhood doing the opposite. While my parents were strict and image-obsessed, Grandma Eleanor believed in honesty, independence, and the occasional well-timed rebellion. What exactly did you hear? I asked. That your parents are boycotting your wedding. Correct. Because of Isabella's ballet retreat. Also correct. There was a long pause. Then she muttered something under her breath that definitely wasn't polite. I raised Victor better than this. Victor, not your father, just Victor. That was never a good sign. I leaned against the balcony railing. Well, apparently this is my lesson in humility. Grandma Eleanor snorted. Humility, my foot. I smiled. You always say that. Because it's always true. Another pause followed. Then her voice softened slightly. Are you okay, sweetheart? The question caught me off guard. Most people had asked if I was angry, or embarrassed, or stressed. But my grandmother asked something different. Are you okay? I think I am, I said quietly. You think? I'm surprisingly calm. That usually means you're about to do something dramatic. I laughed. You sound like Adrian. Good, that boy has common sense. Adrian had always been one of the few people my grandmother liked immediately. Which, considering her extremely high standards for men, was impressive. So she continued, tell me something. What? Are you still having the wedding? Yes. Same date? Yes. Good, she sounded almost pleased. Why? I asked. Because your father needs to learn something. What? That control doesn't work on adults. I stared out at the street below. Cars moved slowly through afternoon traffic. Somewhere in the distance, a siren wailed. Life going on. Unaware that my grandmother was quietly preparing a family earthquake. Maya, she said suddenly. Yes, I want to come to the wedding. The words hit me like sunlight breaking through clouds. Of course you can come. Good, but I hesitated. You know my parents won't be there. She scoffed. That's their loss. You're not worried about upsetting them. Another snort. Child, I stopped worrying about upsetting your father 30 years ago. That sounded exactly like her. But there's something else, she added. What? I'm bringing someone. I frowned slightly. Who? My lawyer. That made me pause. Grandma, why are you bringing your lawyer to my wedding? She chuckled softly. Oh, you'll see. I leaned forward. That doesn't sound mysterious at all. I prefer the word strategic. Strategic for what? Another pause. Then she said something that made my heart skip. Let's just say your parents aren't the only ones who can make dramatic announcements. My mind started racing. Grandma, what are you planning? Patience. That's not reassuring. Good surprises never are. Before I could press further, she changed the subject. Tell me about Adrian. What about him? Is he angry? I thought about Adrian's calm smile, the way he had looked at my father's letter, the quiet intensity behind his eyes. Yes, I said honestly. But he's hiding it well. What? That means he's planning something. You think so? Men like him don't explode. What do? They wait. Her voice lowered slightly. And then they speak at exactly the right moment. A strange chill ran down my spine. Because suddenly I remembered Marcus talking about the reception stage. The speeches. Adrian saying he hadn't decided how honest he would be. Grandma, I said slowly, yes. I think something big might happen at the reception. She laughed softly. Oh, sweetheart. Yes. I'm counting on it. That evening, I told Adrian about the phone call. He listened carefully while leaning against the kitchen counter. So your grandmother is coming, he said. Yes. And she's bringing a lawyer. Yes. He smiled slightly. I like her already. You already liked her. I like her more now. I studied him. You're suspiciously calm. I'm always calm. That's not true. Okay, he admitted. Sometimes I'm calm. And right now I'm curious. About what? What your family thinks is going to happen at this wedding. I folded my arms. They think it'll embarrass me. And will it? No. Could. He stepped closer. Maya. Yes. Your parents made a mistake. That seems to be the theme lately. They assumed this wedding was something they could control. And it's not. No, Adrian said quietly. It really isn't. He kissed my forehead again. And for the first time since my father sent that letter, I felt something stronger than anger. I felt excitement. Because the wedding was only 10 days away, the guest list was growing. Marcus had tripled the lighting budget. Leela was designing what she called the Rebellion playlist. And somewhere across the city, my parents were probably convinced they had already won. They believed their absence would overshadow the entire ceremony. But they were wrong, because on the night of that wedding, 3 things would happen that no one expected. My grandmother would stand up during the reception. My husband would give a speech that changed everything. And before the night was over, the truth about the Hartwell family would finally be revealed. The truth that finally spoke. The courtroom was quieter than I expected. Not the dramatic silence you see in movies, but the heavy kind. The kind that feels like the air itself is waiting. I sat at the witness table, my hands folded together, not shaking, not anymore. For years, I thought my voice didn't matter. For years, other people told my story for me. Today, I was telling it myself. Across the room sat the people who had once controlled every part of my life. Some of them avoided my eyes. Some of them looked angry. But one thing was clear. They were no longer in charge. The judge adjusted his glasses and looked at me. Take your time, he said calmly. And for the first time in a long time, I did. I didn't start with accusations. I started with the truth. I talked about what it feels like when your life slowly becomes something you don't recognize. How silence grows inside a house. How secrets become normal. How fear quietly replaces trust. The courtroom listened, not interrupting, not judging, just listening. And that alone felt powerful. When the questioning ended, I stepped down from the stand. My lawyer placed a hand on my shoulder. "You did well," she whispered. But I didn't feel proud. I felt free. Free in a way I had never experienced before. Not because the case was over. Not because justice had already been decided. But because the truth had finally been spoken out loud. Outside the courthouse, the sky was bright. Reporters waited behind barricades. Cameras flashed. Questions were shouted. But I didn't stop. For years my life had been controlled by headlines, rumors, and other people's opinions. Today, I chose something different. Silence. Not the silence of fear. The silence of peace. Later that night, sitting alone in my apartment, I opened my laptop. Messages had flooded in. Some from strangers. Some from people who had experienced similar things. One message stayed in my mind. It simply said, "Your story made me feel less alone." I stared at those words for a long time. Because maybe that was the real reason stories matter. Not fame. Not attention. But connection. People often ask what happens after everything ends. After the trial. After the headlines. After the truth. The answer is simple. Life continues. Slowly. Quietly. One normal day at a time. And sometimes, that's the greatest victory of all. In my opinion, this story is not just about a courtroom or a legal fight. It is about courage, truth, and the power of finally speaking out after years of silence. What touched me the most in this story is how the main character slowly finds their voice. At the beginning, they feel controlled and powerless, but by the end they realize that telling the truth can be a form of freedom. Many people in real life experience situations where they feel unheard or afraid to speak. This story reminds us that silence does not have to last forever. When someone finally speaks honestly about their experiences, it can change not only their life, but also inspire others. Another important lesson from this story is that justice is not always about revenge. Sometimes justice simply means being able to tell the truth openly and move forward with peace. I believe stories like this are important because they show the emotional journey behind difficult situations. They help readers understand that healing takes time, courage, and support from others. In the end, this story teaches us that even after pain, fear, and conflict, life can continue. And sometimes the greatest victory is simply finding peace and living freely again.